Jivunia kwa Mkatoliki. There goes St. Max Nzoia on Radio Mini 88.3 FM, the Catholic radio station for all. Wherever you are, my dear listener, thank you so much for staying tuned to Radio Mini 88.3 FM into our final hour. All right, but a quick message here. Good morning, Bram. It is Ben, a silent listener from Riruta. Thank you so much, my brother Ben, all the way from Riruta. Right, now, being our final segment, being a Monday, my dear listener, you know we dive straight into matters Catholic answers, right? And today, on our segment today, on Answers from a Catholic Perspective, we continue our conversation on artificial intelligence in the Catholic faith, right? But now today, we bring it closer home, my dear listener. Remember, we are living in a digital age. Social media, artificial intelligence, constant notifications, they shape how we think, how we relate, and how we even pray and even fast, okay? And as we journey through Lent, my dear listener, the church calls us to pray, fasting, and almsgiving. Traditionally, we think of fasting from food, but in today's world, could fasting from social media be just as powerful, maybe even more necessary? Think about it. So with us in studio today is Stephen Nganga, and together we will explore how technology is influencing our spiritual lives, our families, and especially our young people. That is exactly what we're going to be talking about this morning. 0712223385 is the SMS line, or on Facebook page Radio Mini 88.3 FM. Bwana Stephen, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very fine, Bwana.
Thank you to be here.
Karibu sana. And thank you for creating time for me this morning. I'm glad that you are here. I was a little bit worried because of the nature of our roads, especially here. Naambiwa kwamba there is a
very chaotic.
Yeah,
there's an accident in fact across the road,
across here. So I was a little bit hesitant. Nilikuwa nangojea simu kuambiwa Bram, I'm held up, okay? But fair enough. Thank you so much for coming. Kindly introduce yourself as we continue this conversation.
So my name is Stephen Nganga. I am a parent first, because that's what I talk about a lot. I'm a parent, a father of 4 Gen Zs, in fact, 22, and the youngest is 14. But I'm also a teacher by training. Been a teacher for the last 24 years, 25 years now, as a teacher, and taught in all different spaces, primary, secondary, and now I'm working in the university. So I've seen all the generations across.
Wow. Karibu sana, Bwana Stephen. You're the right person to be here. And now that you are a teacher and a parent, especially for Gen Zs.
Yes. Yeah.
Hapa sasa ndio kuna maneno. But above all, karibu sana.
Thank you.
Mr. Stephen, when we talk about artificial intelligence, how does it resonate with you?
There is a lot of conversations around the whole concept of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
But I like to put it this way, that artificial intelligence is just an evolution of technology. So the moment things started going into radio, we moved to television, we moved to mobile phones, the mobile phones before, smartphones, and then we moved to that evolution. Artificial intelligence falls within that spectrum. So it's not something new per se. if you look at even before the chat GPTs of this world and Gemini and all these apps that are there, we were talking about Dr. Google.
Yeah.
And Google you'd ask Google something, and then it will give you links to several spaces, and then you'd go read yourself there. And then Wikipedia, of course, which is not really recognized, but it's a quick reference point.
Yeah.
And that already was artificial intelligence. I think what is taking people by storm is the fact that it's how fast the apps, the technology apps, are now able to process information, store information, and contextualize, put the information to the individual. So if I went to a particular platform and I asked about eating in Nairobi, and then it gives me a number of points, then it links that information to myself. And therefore, when I'm looking for anything, it tells, do you want, this is a new eatery? Because it keeps thinking that you need more.
Yeah.
And the more you visit the eateries, the more you click on those eateries and spend time there, the more the algorithms read that, okay, it looks like this fellow loves traveling. So they will keep bringing that information. Okay. So artificial intelligence, the evolution of technology is personalizing our experiences. But in itself, technology is evolving. Technology has been there and it will continue to evolve. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And talking about technology evolving, let me speak to you as a family man. Do you think that this technology has had an impact in our families?
Massive impact. Yeah. First is the consumption varies. So the older generation, the BBC, as I call them, born before computers, like me, we know a world without technology. We know how it felt. We know how we navigated. We know how we created our lives around without technology, without mobile phone. So even when the technology comes into our spaces, we are not very curious. Yeah. And because you're not curious, we do not know what is passing through. That's why you give a younger child a phone, they will navigate so many spaces. You'll keep asking yourself, does it mean that my phone has all these spaces? Because for them, they're driven by curiosity and they see things. And even the way the apps are designed and developed, they are developed to hold their attention. Yeah. Because remember that most of these apps are what you call, they are for free. But within them, they lace them with adverts and stuff like that. So they want to get a grip of our young people. So the truth of the matter is that, yes, technology is disruptive to family life. Yeah. It's disruptive to parenting. It is disruptive for education. It's disruptive even for just functioning, even working. You go to workplaces and people are connected to 3 gadgets and they keep flipping, and an alert comes, you want to check who is that. Yeah. So technology is disruptive. If it is not managed, definitely becomes a problem. And I think for those of us, for us who are Catholic, the church has taught this for millennia, that the thing by itself is not bad. And I think this is where many people misinterpret Catholic teachings. Yeah. For example, they say, I grew up in a village, and they say, no, leave him alone, he's Catholic. Catholics are allowed to drink. I say, no, Catholics are allowed to drink, but they're not allowed to be drunk. Yeah. Because temperance is needed. You need control. The whole concept of freedom of using something, it has to be used within particular ambit. Yeah. And same with technology. Technology has to be used in the rightful spaces. And you need temperance. I need to know that, I am coming to work, I put my gadget aside, I deliver work, or somebody has come to see me, a visitor, I switch off the gadget, I entertain, I sit down with my visitor, talk to my visitor, or we have gone out for a date with my girlfriend or my wife. Yeah, you focus on the person. You don't. You go to social places and you find people are seated together, but everyone is looking at their phone and you're wondering, I thought you came to be together. So I think, in a nutshell, I would say that technology is here. The church teaches us temperance as a cardinal virtue, one of the virtues. I mean, of the four, temperance is key, and that's what is needed. Even this period of Lent, when you're talking about fasting, one could ask themselves, how many hours am I spending on social media? How many hours am I spending with my children? How many hours am I spending at my workplace? And then you ask, you reflect on it, and then you realize, for example, I mean, it's been found, if you read in literature, students, young people are spending 6 to 8 hours on a screen. Now that's something to ask yourself what that is, and it's causing a lot of problems. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's what I would say. Technology is evolving, and the church has an antidote for it. Okay. It's just that many times we don't know how to apply it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is now where the problem begins.
Yes.
Now, in essence, you are now agreeing that indeed this technology has brought with it what we call disconnection. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, how does this digital disconnection contradict the idea of the family as a domestic church?
Well, I would say is that families are created. Families are social spaces. Yeah. In itself, social in the sense that there are people there who have to connect with each other, who have to do things together, who have to share time together. So if all of us I get home and I'm on my phone, my wife is on phone, my Gen Zs are all on phone and they're in their bedrooms, then we just become, we are not a family anymore. We are a group of people living under the same roof.
Exactly.
So, and that's why it's important to try and ask yourself this question of temperance. So, where can we pause these technologies? And what do we do when we pause the technologies in our families? So, for example, when you go for Mass on Sunday, when you come back for lunch, or we are spending a time in the afternoon, do we have a tech-free afternoon? Or do we, or when we're having dinner, are we switching off all the gadgets and eating together, speaking to each other, finding out what is happening? Or even when we are using the technology, do we use the technology communally? Because you could be watching a movie together as a family. You say, okay, it's a movie night. Let's sit here, watch one movie, the five of us. So the idea is that we as parents and families need to be a little deliberate in managing that space, in managing technology, because technology is here to stay. The second thing I also think is, and you see how these other countries are doing now, because some countries have now started coming up and say, if you're under 16, you shouldn't access social media, blah, blah, blah. We as parents can do the same. I have been involved in parenting programs, teaching and all that, and it's one idea that many parents resist. Yeah. Parents, there is no way you're going to control technology if when your child is 5 years old, you already, the best gift you buy them is a phone. Because once you give that child a phone, actually you have just given him the room to be off. Okay. Yeah. So we need to ask ourselves, when can my child access a phone? And it doesn't mean that a child doesn't have an access to a phone, but maybe it could be a house phone that is used by everybody, so that if the teacher or whoever wants to contact can contact the child, but that phone is not my phone. Because the challenge of modern technologies now is that the phone has become an extension of your hand. So if I buy you a phone, it's yours, and you create everything around yourself. Yeah. So you create your, and of course all these networking sites, they will want to, you have an account, you network with, you collect people together. So I have a list of friends who I connect with. It's interactive. We do things together. And that's where addiction where addiction comes in. So you can imagine a 14-year-old with other thousands of other 14-year-olds on one platform like Instagram or on TikTok, and they're sharing all these. And then, of course, when you're sharing, you're also commenting, you're also talking to each other. So that's what makes it very disruptive, even at family level, because I have my small world, you have your small world. Everyone has their own small world that they're engaging, which is virtual. And then we forget about the physical.
All right. Well explained. And Mr. Stephen, the biggest headache to parents in this particular era of technology is how to navigate the streets of parenting with these devices in the arms of our children and ourselves as well, because as you've said, they are now at an extension of our arms. How has it been parenting the Gen Zs? And one of the biggest attributes of Gen Zs is social media.
Very tough. I personally, I have to say this, that I have three fellows who are past 18, and all of them got a phone at 18.
Okay.
We only had one phone in the house, which we call house phone. Even on my mobile phone, I registered as a house phone. And you'd never carry that phone out of the house. Okay, it's because it's like a traditional telephone line in the house, so that if the house help wanted to call madam if madam is not in, or if I wanted to find out something from home, that is the phone I call. And that's the phone they have been using for everything that they needed. Yeah. So if somebody has left something and all that, they would chat. And that phone is mine.
Okay.
It has my password, so I can see everything that you are doing with the phone. So it's an element of control. Of course, for many parents, they'll say, no, but you see, when my child goes to school or goes for this activity, I need to know where they are. And I keep asking parents, so your child has gone on a trip to Nyeri. Then it's been raining and all that, things are difficult, and they're on their way back. It's 7 p.m. You call and you are told they're in Sagana. So what do you do with that information?
There's nothing.
There's nothing you're going to do. There's nothing you can do. I mean, they're in Sagana, it's 7 p.m.
Exactly.
And you're in Nairobi, you have to wait. So the challenge I find is there's a loss of trust. So we hide behind distrusting people who we have given our children rights to. This morning I've just dropped my daughter in school. What have I done? I have entrusted her to the school. So she doesn't need to have a phone. I don't need to call her and say, hey man, my daughter, have you had lunch? No. Because I trust the school, when lunchtime comes, they will provide the lunch because I have paid for the lunch. Or if they are going for an activity, I trust that there will be a responsible adult who will take care of everything. And if I need to, I call the school and ask, hey, this activity, what time was it? And I don't need to call the child. So the first principle in parenting anyone, not only Gen Zs, because now I think we are into beta, generation beta, is we got to trust those around us. We are a community. We are not going to bust this technology issue if we don't trust each other. If a parent does not trust a teacher, a parent does not trust the house manager, a parent does not trust the driver, a parent does not trust the nurse, then we have a problem. Because then we start thinking that technology will give us answers quickly. That if my child has a phone, I'll just call my child. But a child can be manipulated. So I think that's the first thing. That's the first thing, trust. The second thing, which is very important, is to realize that freedom does not mean openness. Because every parent thinks, but what if my friends' kids have a phone? Like my daughter kept telling me that, the third born was saying, Dad, all my friends have phones. All my friends have phones. I said, okay, all your friends have phones, but you don't need a phone. And it was really a pressure point for me, because the child I kept asking. But when you check, is that parents think that, well, it's not a big deal. But if Australian government can pass a bill and say, hey, no to this. Now Britain is doing the same, Norway is doing the same. France has kicked out phones from schools. I think in Sweden they were using electronic books. Now they have gone back to hardcover paper books. That tells you something, that control is not a bad thing. You need control. The same way, even on our traffic roads, we need control. Why do we put bumps on the highways? We're trying to control people. Yeah. Otherwise, you let everything through, then we have chaos. So I think when you're parenting younger people, I think parents should not be afraid to say, these are the measures I want, and I will enforce them. And in this home, they are enforceable. Okay. In another home, they might not be enforced, but in my home, they are enforceable because I don't want you to do 1, 2, 3. We have to explain, of course, to our children and tell them, okay, the reason why I'm preventing you from this and this is because I don't want you to get addicted. And I also know once you get to university, once you get a phone, you will always have a phone until your dying day. So enjoy your childhood. Enjoy the fact that I can drop you in school and come and pick you. And you just enjoy being a child. Because one day you will be having that phone and you're the one who will be driving yourself. So I think those two elements, trusting in our institutions and the people who are running those institutions, and then freedom. Okay. Understanding that freedom requires control. There is no open-ended freedom. Control is part of freedom. Yeah.
Well explained, Stephen, and you're putting it in a very, very simple and clear way. But now, having said that, Stephen, what responsibility do parents have in guiding their children through this digital consumption?
I always argue that as a parent, you are responsible for the technology diet in your house.
Okay.
And when I mean technology, initially we used to say, TV, television, what are they watching and all that, which is true. Now that has moved into the personalized space, which is the gadget, their own. And of course, the social media platforms, the media platforms are coming up with a lot of content. Everyone is trying to create content, including your own children who try to create content. Yeah. Everyone is content creating. So I think, so it's important to have an understanding. First, I think as parents, we cannot parent the way we were parented. Those of us who grew up in the 1980s and 1990s, we were parented in an environment that was technology free. The biggest technology was television, and even television was available only from 5 p.m. to 11 in the night. Yeah. So it wasn't really a big thing. Radio was, but even radio was controlled. We didn't have the tragedy of FMs, because I call it tragedy, and I'll explain to you why I call it tragedy of FMs. So we actually, parents of that generation, do not know what it means to deal with children in this age. So I think as parents, one of the things that I argue is that we need to read more. You need to study more. Parenting is a science. It's not accidental. Don't say, sisi tulilelewa, so things will be well. You could be seated there with your child and say, mtoto wangu havuti bangi, my child doesn't do ABCD, but your child is in a porn ring. Yeah. Just on that phone that you have bought. Your child could be in a very serious addiction online, but everything for you is perfect because you grew thinking that bang was the biggest problem. So I think parenting education is critical. We have to take that charge, and I think if you look at even the way the church approaches issues, spiritual life, there's a lot of demand on us to read, to get formed. So why is a catechism such a huge book? If you ask yourself, why is a catechism of social doctrine such a big book? It's because there's a lot of stuff to read. Yeah. We need to read. We need to familiarize ourselves. You need to ask yourself, why is TikTok such a powerful thing? Why? Because it's algorithmic. You watch a video for 4 seconds. The algorithms read, you like that. So the next video will be closer to that. Yeah. If you watch that one, by the time you watch the 3rd video, that thing already knows you like butterflies. So for example, you watch the butterfly one, then the next one was a butterfly, the third one butterfly. Say this fellow loves butterflies. It will curate all content butterfly, and that's how you find. You ask the young people, say, no, I decided to watch something. 2 hours later, I was still on the phone because algorithms come into play. I use Facebook, which is an older version of things.
Yeah.
And now that I am with you, for example, if you called me now, I don't have your number, you don't have my number. But if you call me now and we speak, I live here. I will see you on Facebook. If you have a Facebook account, it will show me Bramwel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they are using algorithms. Steve spoke to this guy for 3 minutes. So it means they know each other. There is something they are doing together. Automatically, when I go to my Facebook, it tells me, this guy can be your friend.
Yeah.
Or if I send you a WhatsApp, because Facebook, WhatsApp are owned by the same company, Meta, automatically it will alert me. If this guy has a Facebook account, it'll show me. And that's what it's doing. All these platforms are doing that. They are networking. They are creating networks. And then, of course, those networks are addictive because they are connecting you with things you know, things you want, things you enjoy. So it's personalized. So you are thinking that it is me. But there is a whole architecture behind there of hooking you. In fact, there is a movie called Social Dilemma, I think, released some years back, showing engineers who are working in these spaces, showing how they curate content for addiction. So it's important that we as parents know that it's very possible for your child to be addicted. And many of our children are getting addicted to these platforms.
Yeah. And talking about addiction, Bwana Steve, what are some of the biggest spiritual and psychological risks of uncontrolled access to social media by our children?
The biggest threat I see with social media, I mean, basically technology, is that your child can easily, or even us as adults, you can easily fall into a bubble. But a bubble in social media means because your content is being curated by algorithms, they will keep creating content that mirrors what you think.
Yeah.
So even the people you connect with are people who think like you. So say for example, I have one of the biggest challenges Gen Zs have, I'm seeing in my household is there's a whole conversation around if God exists, why do we have suffering in the world? Why are bad people like this? So there's a whole content being created around being an atheist. Like if belief in God is stupid. Now, if you get into that space, if you get into that bubble, you'll get content that just resonates with that, and no one brings you content to show you, no, by the way, there have been bigger atheists who eventually at the end of their lives actually became Catholic.
Exactly.
Yeah, because so that's what I'm saying, the risk of a bubble. And that's where a parent is needed, because you as a parent, you're able to bring contrary opinions. Say, hey, wait a moment. What do you mean you want to be? What do you mean being an atheist? You can prod questions, and you can use the same technology to bring in more information and say, hey, have you read this? Check this one. Have you heard of this philosophy? Have you heard of this? And then that way, you burst the bubble.
Okay.
Because many times, if you look at our younger fellows, they tend to get caught into a bubble. So they're getting caught in a bubble of parents are old school. It's true, parents can be old school. But that old school content has some reasoning. If you spend time to explain and expose the person, say, look, this is what it means. And this is the context under which this information was created. So you can't say this is stupid. So I mean, I normally, just to give an example, I grew up in the West. So I have interacted with all major communities in the West. And one of the things about the Luo community was the thing of knocking down 6 teeth. So if you tell a typical young Luo or a typical Kenyan that was a rite of passage, you say, wow, that's a madness. Why would you lose 6 teeth?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you live like that? But I say, no. But the issue was not, that was not an issue of rite of passage. It was that when you are younger, your jaws can be opened easily. there was a problem of this lockjaw disease that used to happen in those days. And if your jaw's locked, how would the people feed you? If you're an adult, when the jaws lock, they lock completely. If you're a child, people would find a way of opening your jaws. And so when you're a child, they didn't remove the teeth. But once you got to teenage, they remove the lower teeth so that in case you get lockjaw, they have a place to feed you. Yeah. So you in today, presentism, we call it presentism. Today you can say, yeah, that's a cake. It was so stupid. No. There was a scientific reasoning behind it. Yeah. So we have to help. The role of a parent is exactly that, to explain these nuances so that a child can see, that makes sense. So, 2 days ago, on Friday, my son is 21, so I was dropping him to university. And then in the morning, he started asking me questions about, very deep questions regarding this whole conflict of Israel. And you say, why doesn't God, if God really exists, why doesn't God punish Israel for the things they are doing in the Middle East? And I said, no, that's not the way it is. Punishments are never communal. Because even within the Israeli society itself, there are people who don't like what's happening. Exactly. There might not be many, but there are people there who are saying no. And even there have been demonstrations in Jerusalem and all that sometime just to show the government you're doing the wrong thing. So we cannot punish people communally. Every individual, the church teaches that every individual has their conscience, moral conscience, and you are judged by your moral conscience. So it's the same thing. We have to, as parents, we have to find time, spend time. I know everybody will say, yeah, but the speed of life, we need money, But I think the greatest thing one can do as a parent is to study what it means to be a parent, to know where these risks are coming from, to read a bit, and then guide. It's not a place of giving rules. Because many times some of us grew up with rules. Usitembe na fulani, don't go here. Now this generation, usitembe na fulani, that doesn't make sense because the fellow is in the phone. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. It won't apply.
That doesn't apply.
Exactly. Yeah. And finally, Brother Stephen, we have talked about parent, you being a father to Gen Zs, etc. Now let's talk about the other cap that you are putting on.
Yeah.
A teacher from primary school, secondary school, now to university.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And now here technology is a big problem again. What are some of the challenges that you've noticed and the risks you've seen at the education sector, especially the university level or college level, in regards to technology?
It's the same reality. The challenge is the same. You face it as a parent, because even now in the house I see my children, they are doing homework with, I have one CB, so they keep using, Daddy, pay for it. Internet has become part and parcel of my budget. Exactly. 6 years ago, I hardly paid for internet. And now I have to pay for internet because I have to research here, check this, And I see a lot of use of these models. They are called language models. Chat, GPT, Gemini, Jenny, whatever, all that stuff. And it's true. Just the same way parenting has been disrupted, education is getting disrupted. And every other sector is actually getting disrupted. Of course, education is prominent because education is where training happens for people to move to the other space. So you can imagine you're training an engineer who depends on copying.
Exactly.
Or you're training a doctor who depends on copying, or a lawyer who depends on copying. Then it becomes very problematic. But the truth of the matter is, education is disrupted. And now, why has education been disrupted? Because our educational models were designed in a mode that looked at the teacher as a source of information. So you go to class, the teacher is the one who comes and teaches maths, and there was no other reference point. So if the teacher taught you 1 + 1 is equals to 2, the way the teacher taught it, that's how you understood it, and that's how you abstracted it. Now, technology comes and shows you, no, yeah, your teacher says this, but there's another teacher who says this, and there's another. So there are many voices. So that's the first thing that education is facing. Who is the teacher, and what is the content? So those of us who are in educational space need to redefine ourselves, because you're not going to throw out technology. In fact, many times you go to class and you're teaching a concept, you project a point, and the fellow goes to Gemini and says, but that thing is not correct.
Exactly.
So you need, as a teacher, the role of a teacher has to, the kind of training, the kind of understanding of a teacher is changing, has to change dramatically. But I think that's one. The second thing is that the content we teach needs to be tuned to the local realities also. So if I'm teaching mathematics, I need to see how my students in a Kenyan Nairobi context or whatever context connect that mathematics to their local realities. So that even when somebody sees an American teaching in the United States, they will connect it with the local reality. Because at the end of the day, this person you're teaching is global at the same time local. So that's the other thing. Then the third thing, which is very important, which is where now most of us are suffering, is assessment. How do I judge that Bramwel knows this content?
Yeah.
And this is where most teachers are struggling, because we are used to giving examinations that are recall. Now we are being asked to move from that space to examinations that require applications.
Yes.
And many of us are not very good or not trained very well in that. So you find, for example, 5 years, 6 years ago, or 7 years ago, there was a whole complaint about biology being poorly performed.
Yeah.
When you look at what was happening is that they tilted the examinations a little bit towards applications. And the students were expecting to be asked, what is a cell, draw mitochondria, Then suddenly here you come and you're being given a scenario, and then they're asking you to explain things, which is application. So we will manage to some extent the impact of the AI if we also look at how we assess. And assessment is not a one-point thing. It has to be progressive, so that you're able to tell that this student actually knows, or this student has abstracted the content that you want. So for education, that's a big shift that even institutions are not prepared yet for it.
Wow.
There's a struggle for that, because assessment has to change completely. You look at, for example, at master's level, somebody can bring you a thesis,
It is
complete, because you just go to AI and prompt some questions and you generate.
Yeah.
But you want to put the fellow there and say, look, what is your research question? What is making you think that this is a researchable thing? Where will you get the data? If I ask you those questions, even when you bring me a report, I will read that report with that conversation in mind.
Yeah.
Say, his research question was making sense. He knows how he identified the problem. So assessment becomes the biggest
challenge.
Yes.
All
But
right.
technology is here. I mean, if I can write, we would spend a lot of time. I write a report, something, and then I send it to an editor who will do the editing. Now with Grammarly, I don't need to. I just write my thing. Grammarly does a correction, tells me this sentence is here. That's okay, because it's algorithmic work. What I can't ask it is to do it for me. Yes.
Okay, and that is now where the problem is coming in, whereby
yes.
most of these young men and women at the college level university,
They just think it's copy and paste.
copy and paste. And actually, that's the conversation that was happening on X the other day, because somebody asked a very interesting question. Why is it that right now we are having rampant cases of death resulting from tooth extraction, for example? Right, we just lost a certain gentleman as a result of a tooth extraction. We saw a lady somewhere again complaining a tooth extraction. Is it that these are some of the dentists that are coming from ChatGPT or somewhere? That was a conversation that we were having on X the other day. But as you are winding up, Bwana Steven, what would be your final message to our listeners out there, especially when it comes to balancing real life and technology?
I would say this as a closure. Technology is here to stay, and no one should think that the answers to the challenges of technology is by throwing technology out. Technology, just like any other thing, is a tool, and God has granted us intelligence to be able to harness the good of technology. And of course, for us to be able to do that, we need to train people. We need to teach people. People need to be formed on what technology is, what it's able to do, and how that affects or comes into contact with our day-to-day living.
Yeah.
And why, at the end of the day, as a human being, I cannot blame technology. I cannot say it's ChatGPT which gave me the wrong answer, or I cannot say I checked with Gemini and I didn't get a good answer. No. We as human beings have the intellect. What technology does is that it solves our algorithmic problems. The things that are mundane. Of course, everyone say, yeah, AI, some jobs will change. Just to give an example, just for purposes of helping listeners understand. In the 90s, accountants used to do ledgers.
Yeah.
Debit, credit. Now we still need accountants, don't we?
We do.
But they don't need to do that. ERP solutions, they will run things, but you still need an accountant who can interpret that information and tell people this is what is happening to this company. That's why now understanding of financial statements and all, you still need an accountant. You can't run a business without an accountant. But you don't expect the accountant to be seated there a whole day doing debit and credit. So technology does not throw away jobs. It changes the mode in which we do the jobs. And therefore, we as people also need to adapt to that. So technology will do algorithmic work, basic work, but the thinking work, the interpretive work requires people. And we cannot fail to train people to think. We cannot fail to train people to interpret. And that is the job of a parent. That's the job of a teacher. And that is the job of industry.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brother Steve Nganga, you've been the best person to handle some of these issues or questions that we've been receiving. But if time allows, some other time, I'll also invite you so that we can continue now digesting it even better. All right.
Anytime.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
All right, my dear listener, that has been my time. Thank you so much for your company. Let's do